Adventures in time and space, told in future tense.
All radio is dead.
They're coming to get you, Barbara. Look, there comes one of them now.
Welcome, I'm Kyle.
I'm Brad.
And risen from the coffin, we are the Nosferadudes. And from KNOS in the morning, this is Kyle and the Man.
I'm the man.
Yeah, you guys going out there to see that comet tonight?
That's a good intro.
You better look up in the sky because it's going to be burning bright.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful, sunny 54 degrees in this 8 o'clock in the morning rush hour. Got to get started on your workday, get to the grind.
Are you done now?
Brad,
Did you get it out of your system?
Why am I doing the radio voice?
I never know why you do the things that you do. Tonight, we are covering the first movie in our Night of series.
That's correct.
This is 1984's Night of the Comet.
That's right. 1984, Night of the Comet, starring the beautiful Catherine Mary Stewart and the effervescent Kelly Maroney.
Essence. Does that mean she smells good?
No, bubbly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so full disclosure,
Awesome.
as a young lad growing up in the Lehigh Valley, Catherine Mary Stewart was one of my major childhood crushes.
Right.
Because she was not only in this movie, which was one of my favorites growing up, she was also in my other
Starfighter.
The Last Starfighter, which was for me was like, you know, there was a long time there. I was kind of like internally, I didn't say it, but for a long time there as a young child, I was like, Star Wars, fuck Star Wars, Last Starfighter.
Fuck Star Wars? I don't know about that.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, thank you for anyone that I think the 48 people that have watched us on YouTube. Thank you so much for the support there. That's a new thing for us. But for anybody watching this video, which will also be on YouTube, there has been a small change. I am very well lit now.
Right.
And Brad is in pitch darkness.
No, I'm well lit. I'm just lit in a different way.
But we have a patron out there. We don't have a Patreon, but we have a patron out there who who is only comment, and it's a guy we grew up with. Shout out to Austin. I won't divulge his last name, but shout out to Austin. His one comment about our YouTube video was too dark.
I welcome the darkness.
So I may have to start using makeup, like if I start to sweat.
Yeah, you are. I might
have to powder.
You're very lit up.
Powder my forehead.
I can see everything.
I was a directing major. I was not a lighting and technical major in college, so I'm kind of just half-assing a lot of this.
Yeah.
But Night of the Living Dead, written and directed by Tom Eberhardt, who also he directed. He didn't just stick to horror movies. He directed a few that you may know. He directed. Now this might be a little less well known. I remember watching it a few times growing up. Gross Anatomy with Matthew Modine about young medical students. He also directed Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Not Honey, I Shrunk the Kid. Honey, what? Honey, I blew up the. Does that make the kid in Honey, I blew up the kid an atomic monster? What did he use to power the
Well,
laser?
how did he get him? How did he? It was in the laser. Yeah, I
He
don't
shot
know
him
what
with a
he used
laser,
to-
but what was the
He
laser?
shot him with a laser.
Was the laser just fueled with electricity? I guess we're
I
gonna find.
never really dove that far into Honey I Shrunk or Honey I Blew Up the Kid. I did like Honey I Shrunk the Kids though.
If
That
anybody
was a
out
good
there,
movie.
if anybody out there can remember what the fuel for the laser was, write to us. Nosferadudes@gmail.com. Let us know. So yeah, he also directed. Brad, I know this has to be one of your favorites. Captain Ron with Kurt Russell. Captain Ron.
Oh my goodness, Captain Ron! One of my wow!
That's
You
that's
pulled
one of your
that out
favorites,
of
right?
obscurity. Oh my goodness, Captain Ron!
Captain Ron,
I do remember. I do remember that movie. Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So starring, as we said, Catherine Mary Stewart,
Yep.
Kelly Maroney. Now, of
Mhm.
course, Kelly Maroney, she is an official Scream Queen. Brad, what other movie do we know her from especially?
Well, Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall, right, right. But she appeared in Not of This Earth, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, a little movie called Sleigh Ground. And really, the third star of this is Robert Beltran as Hector Gomez. Robert Beltran, I think he would probably at this point best be known as Commander Chakotay from Star Trek Voyager. That was probably his best known role up to this point. But he was in, like, he got famous for Eating Raoul. He was in Lone Wolf McQuade, Nixon. And then you got like a well-rounded cast of character actors. You got Sharon Farrell as the stepmother Doris, Jeffrey Lewis as Dr. Carter in the bunker, the leader of the bunker brigade. I don't know what their official
Yeah.
name was. I don't think they ever gave away. They don't give away an official name for whatever that group is. They refer to them as a think tank,
I don't think so.
and they have that weird labyrinth symbol.
They have a symbol. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Also, Mary Woronov, she plays Audrey White, one of the Bunker Brigade, who is well known because she's been in Silent Night, Bloody Night, Death Race 2000, Rock and Roll High School, Terror Vision, Chopping Mall, Warlock. You know, she's like basically horror movie royalty. And a great appearance by character actor Stanley Brock as Mel. Mel, the owner and operator of the movie theater.
yeah.
If you see him, you're gonna know, like, oh, I've seen that guy. Like
You've seen him before. Yep.
any 80s, early 90s movie that you watch, he's in UHF. He's in UHF with Weird Al Yankovic.
It's a great movie.
Also, Amazon Women on the Moon. Amazon Women on the Moon. That's another good one. But Brad, before we get started on Night of the Comet, I think we gotta come back. We gotta come back to our roots, right?
Definitely.
It's time for Nosferadudes.
Wicked, evil, twisted.
I got news for you, pal.
So, Brad, on this installment of Nosferadudes,
Uh-huh.
which I will definitely come up with some weird little vignette to put in that you just watched. So I think to start off, like, the number one news of the week is the unfortunate passing of Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Now you would think, why would a horror movie podcast talk about Val Kilmer? Well, Val Kilmer, he was in a horror movie, at least one. He was in The Island of Dr. Moreau, which we are going to cover one day because there is great behind the scenes stories about the raging hell that was the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yep.
So maybe I could have like a small person that could follow me around. Could I do that?
Yeah.
I want to
pretty
keep
good,
it.
Brando.
I want to play the piano, and I want the little person.
Okay, you're like you're going from Brando to Trump.
They're close.
I don't. Well,
I want the little person to be playing a little piano.
Never go against the family.
Well, that's Godfather Brando.
Okay. All right. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
Dynamite.
I don't know, but that on. And then you know, I don't know. I don't see the.
And then I want a little
And-
piano. I want a little
Yeah.
piano off to the side, just off to the side.
Yeah.
Not
So,
for me. Not for me. I've got regular.
okay. I guess
I've got
I guess
regular
everyone
sized
close.
hands.
Yeah.
So yes, Val Kilmer passed away. My understanding it was from pneumonia. He they did just briefly mention that he was still kind of battling the cancer, the throat cancer, and things from coming back. And so it I'm not a doctor, and I have not treated Val Kilmer, but more than likely it was probably pneumonia.
You haven't?
By something having to do with that, because a lot of the treatments that you would do to stave off cancers lower your immune system, and it's not uncommon for people to get pneumonias. So really unfortunate, because I know he was clawing and scraping every day to stay in the business in some way. They tried to do a lot with voiceovers and things like that. If you haven't checked out the documentary Val, it's freakishly good, because his son Jack does the narration in his father's voice, and it's like Val Kilmer's telling you the story, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Underrated Batman, I think. And I think because the movie itself, Batman Forever, wasn't maybe super awesome, especially compared to, the Michael Keaton ones that were right before it. So but I thought he did a good job. I just thought I thought Joel Schumacher directed it.
yeah,
I don't think it was an overall great Batman, but I thought he did a good job as Batman.
I think it was one of those. It was unfortunate that I think they did pick the wrong director, because if a different director had handled it and taken it a little more seriously, he probably would have been in there for at least 2 or 3 movies. I know he wanted to be. He was actually very excited to do it, because I think that was part of the Dr. Moreau. There were some issues there, that involved the fact that he was becoming Batman, and
Right.
it created some stuff. And it's unfortunate that he. Then this is according to he self admits his ego got in the way of a lot of opportunities for him that he probably could have gone to greater heights and levels. But as far as eventually, he, even before the throat cancer, he did kind of get humbled and went back to theater, and was doing a lot of theater and kind of working on himself that way to like push into where he wanted to be. So it's the throat cancer diagnosis was just super unfortunate.
And he did a lot of big movies, but I always wonder if my favorite Val Kilmer movie might have been The Saint.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that was
I
definitely.
love that movie.
Yeah,
That movie. I watched it over and over and over again.
I think it's one of those things that suffered from a certain type of movie getting played out at the time, and not only that, but it was a property that people weren't super excited about either.
Right.
But if you
but the movie was good.
If you watch
it,
his character work, because the whole idea is he does these disguises and to go undercover and get access to these different secret things. His character work in that is like really, really good.
Yeah.
Really funny,
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, Val Kilmer, we'll miss you. I mean, he's our Huckleberry. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, isn't that the greatest moment of the movie?
Yep.
When he walks up and he comes out of the shadow and he's like, "I'm your Huckleberry."
Well, and I think that was also the title of his book. His memoir was "I'm Your Huckleberry."
And Johnny Ringo's like, "I was just fooling about." And then Doc Holliday says, "I wasn't."
You can tell Brad watched.
I watched
a lot.
Tombstone a lot. Yeah, definitely. Maybe Tombstone's my favorite Val Kilmer movie. He was awesome. He was so awesome because there's 2 Wyatt Earp movies that came out, like 93 and then 90. I think it was the very next year Kevin Costner's came out. I'm not saying that was Dennis Quaid doing Doc Holliday. And I think that as good as a job as Dennis Quaid did, and he did a really good job, really good job. Val Kilmer is Val Kilmer knocked it out of the park. I loved his Doc Holliday.
Do you think that was was that the first instance that you can remember? Like, because that became like a Hollywood trend, as one studio would hear that another studio was coming out with a certain kind of movie, and then they would rush to get their movie out about the same basic topic. I think that was the first real big instance of that, was Tombstone and Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, because everybody was confused. We were like, wait a minute, Tombstone just came out like last year. We just saw this.
Yeah, the audience were like, we just had a Wyatt Earp movie.
We literally just had a Wyatt Earp movie. Yeah. But Kevin Costner was like, what, was that Wyatt Earp movie 4 hours long? Nope. That movie was long.
So I lost my notes for my other news. But I do know one thing tied into what we're talking about tonight, Night of the Comet, is supposedly there is going to be there's like a new trend now where horror films that didn't get novelizations when they first came out are now getting novelizations. There's some publishing companies that are having novelizations created for them. The classic story is Halloween. Halloween did have a novelization that came out around the same time the film did, and that was the one that contained all the Mark of Thorn stuff that then cropped up later on in 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
And so now Night of the Comet is going to be getting a post release novelization. Wow. So maybe we will find out who the Bunker Brigade is and exactly what they're up to with that. Maybe we'll get some more.
Maybe they'll go into further detail. That would be nice.
Yeah, who is Dr. Carter? Who is Ms. White? So, or maybe she's a doctor. I didn't mean to. I'm going to call her Dr. White from here on out.
Well, they're I don't know. They're scientists.
I don't want to tread on her accomplishment. So, Brad, do you have anything to add in, since I forgot what my other thing was?
No. Nope. I think I had something written down, but then I forgot.
Yeah, you have a tendency to do that.
I do. I do.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let the movie start here.
Yep.
For anybody that hasn't listened or watched yet, we do kind of just run the movies while we're recording, just in case something jumps out at us that we haven't already thought to talk about. So Tom Eberhardt, writer-director. Now this movie comes out. This movie follows on the coattails of what today really isn't a much talked about movie, but in the 80s was like a seminal movie, which was Valley Girl. Valley Girl came out. Sarah Jessica Parker is in that. It was like a huge hit at the time. It was like one of the first, like that, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, those type of movies. But it's like the first kind of wave of the big teen, I want to say almost dramedies, right? Because it's dealing with teen issues, and some of them a little serious, but then it's also doing it in a lighthearted way, mixed with a lot of humor, a lot of goofball stuff. And of course, popularized the Valley Girl speak,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, oh my God. Totally. Yeah. Oh my God, that's rad. And of course, mall culture. That's like, the first kind of big acknowledgement of mall culture.
Yep.
So Tom Eberhardt sees this and he's like, okay. He's like, I see the way the wind's blowing. I want to make a movie, like a teen girl centric movie, strong, young women in the lead roles. But I want to make it, he had all this other stuff in his head, like all the kind of old timey, uh, space apocalypse type movies, and he's like, I want to take those girls, like Valley Girl, and put them in a post-apocalyptic world
Yeah.
and see how they do.
Right.
And so as part of this, he actually did research. He was working on a project that involved, I think it was a documentary that involved a lot of teen girls. And so kind of during downtime, he would just ask them like, hey, like if the world ended tomorrow, hey, Cold War, the nukes fly and everything ended tomorrow, like what would you do? Would you like freak out? Would you, run for the hills? And most of the responses from the teenage girls were positive, like, oh no, I think I'd be okay. Like, and stuff like, and not to minimize it, but a lot of his responses were like, hey, like that means everything in the stores are free, right? Like their first thought was like going and raiding the mall,
Yeah.
which they do in the movie.
Which they do in the movie.
And that's the thing. He worked a lot of that research that he did into the film, because their biggest concern. Can you guess what their biggest concern was about a post-apocalyptic? The girls.
What they're that they interviewed?
Yeah. What would you think the biggest concern of teen girls in a post-apocalyptic world would be?
I don't know. What?
Not enough dudes to date.
Not enough dudes to date.
They said that dating would be the hardest part because there wouldn't be that many people.
Yes. Well, yeah. Yep.
Choices would be limited. And so he works that into the film. That's, there's a little bit of a love triangle that happens between Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney play sisters.
Yep.
Reggie and Sam. Regina and Samantha, but Reggie and Sam. And there, with the introduction of Hector, there's a little love triangle that happens.
Yep.
But yeah, so Sam, the character of Samantha, played by Kelly Maroney, is, I don't know, Brad, would you say that her character in this film is iconic? You can give an honest answer. No,
I don't think so. I mean, iconic in what way? And iconic to like horror fans, maybe?
Yeah, you could say, yeah.
Yeah, I think with the Pep Squad, it's a Pep Squad outfit.
It's a Pep Squad, right? It's not technically not a cheerleader,
right? So
Pep
Squad outfit, kind of with that poster with the the Pep Squad girl like up against the background of the sky. Yeah, I think maybe to horror fans.
Well, it was definitely iconic to one person, and that was Joss Whedon.
Okay,
because Joss Whedon based Buffy the Vampire Slayer off of Sam from Night of the Comet.
Right. That's right. He did.
The cheerleader who kicks ass.
Right. Yeah, because it's cool because they're actually, so the girls are like, they have a father who's in the special forces, and he's like off, fighting somewhere. And
do you not remember where? Nicaragua.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't remember.
That's
where.
Beavis and Butthead for anybody that doesn't know.
Oh, awesome. But they have a father who's in the special forces, and he's fighting in Nicaragua.
Right.
And
the
so the girls are left. So the girls are left home with their stepmother, and but they were actually trained in like martial art, like hand-to-hand combat, basically.
Right. And
by their father, like almost their whole upbringing. So in the movie, it's not like they're just these helpless teenagers. They're well skilled in hand-to-hand combat. They're skilled in weapons, kind of like survival. Like, so they kind of know what they're doing. They kind of have their head about them in the movie, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not when it comes to altercations, they know what they're doing with a gun. Their dad, I believe he's supposed to be a Green Beret. He's a Green Beret. He's in Nicaragua fighting the Sandinistas. This is a Reagan era film. There was a lot of that stuff that happened during Reagan. And so, yeah, he's taught him how to throw a punch. He's taught him how to fire a weapon, and multiple different kinds of weapons. Like, they know their way around.
Like assault weapons. Like they know how to fire like assault weapons. They know, they know a lot. And probably even more than that. They might, rocket launchers and
I bet you he's probably let him shoot a bazooka like at least
bazookas
once.
And
they went to the base. They went to the base. And
well, that's what I mean. Like he's
we're going to do something cool today.
Yeah. Because she even says in the movie, like the guy, what's his name? Hector, right?
Hector, yeah.
That has when he first confronts them, he has a pistol. I don't know, it's like a 38 or something. And, she eventually says to him, we're going to need a lot more than that. We're going to need a lot more stopping power. So they load up and, they have they have Uzis, Kyle. Uzis. I mean, Uzis were very popular in the 80s.
Well, and actually, I think they
80s.
even make the comment. I don't think they're technically Uzis. They're supposed to be more like I don't even know what other, because we always just called them Uzis. But she makes the comment. She goes, "Daddy would have gotten us Uzis."
Right. Okay. So there's some shitty version of an Uzi.
Yeah, some shitty submachine gun.
Right. Exactly. So, but yeah, no, I love how they're actually just not your typical like dumb teenage. Well, I shouldn't say very hard on teenagers. They're not your typical naive teenagers that don't know what they're doing. They handle themselves throughout the movie. So
yeah, and it's not one of these kind of cynical movies. Like I talk about some of the cynical movies where it's like somebody all of a sudden magically knows how to do something. Guy, girl doesn't matter. You get a lot of movies where all of a sudden they put like a machine gun in somebody's hand and all of a sudden they know how to like mow down everything. And it's not one of those. Like he puts a background behind them that explains why they know how to handle themselves and how they can take care of themselves, that they have been trained by their Green Beret dad to kick butt and take names.
Right. So is this a horror action movie?
No, I wouldn't say so because
you wouldn't. Did we call Chopping Mall a horror action movie?
No, we called that techno horror.
We call it techno horror.
Yeah. Now this would be, I think, this is a little more
sci-fi,
a little bit of a sci-fi horror. Yeah, because even though they're using submachine guns and stuff, like
they get into a full-on gunfight in the store.
They do, but I wouldn't rank the gunfight in the mall next to like Predator. Against Willie and the Stock Boys.
Oh, by the way, and I don't know if we're just bouncing all around, but what is with the new wave bad guys in the store after the shopping spree, right? After the shopping spree montage that they do, the Pretty Woman montage. There's those guys that end up, they were in the store, and
right. They were literally,
but they're all dressed. Yeah, but they're supposed to be like these like bad guys or whatever, but they're all like new wave because it's 1984. Well, so he's got like the sunglasses on, and I know why, to cover his eyes, but they're still dressed and in the style of like new wave.
Well, if you look at them, they're like the other guys are all wearing smocks. Those are actually like the movie Mannequin. You remember the movie Mannequin? How like when it's all like the people after hours, they all like had them wear like the same smocks.
Yeah,
and stuff. So, but how Willie, who is the leader of the Stock Boys, how he got a silk robe with Willie embroidered on it, I have no idea.
But even like the other guy has like the smaller sunglasses, and his hairstyle, like, and he's got the earring, it's very like, That's when I move on. Kyle, is there any science to people turning into calcium dust in the wake of a comet?
I don't think so. Although, so the only issue would be if we were close enough to a comet to pass through its tail. That comet is probably going to hit us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, as far as I know, like tails of comets don't carry radiation and stuff. They just it's like ice and shit that's like being flaked off the comet as it moves through space. It's basically like the solar winds, because a comet doesn't really have a tail until it gets close to our solar system. Like before that, it's kind of almost just an asteroid. And then it gets close and the solar winds start flaking off all the accreted, ice and shit off of the comet, and it forms a tail. And I do think maybe that it glows because there's probably a little bit of ionization that happens.
I don't know.
The friction of the particles and things. But
this isn't like made up science right now, is it, Kyle?
I don't think so. I think
you're pretty accurate
I just
on
said
this.
was valid.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying.
But yeah, so I mean, there might be ionization, but I've never heard of comets carrying with them radiation. Usually, if they produce any kind of radiation, it's because they've impacted something. You know how they talk about, like, if an asteroid were to impact Earth, it would be like, the equivalent of, so many like neutron bombs and shit like that. That's usually because the coming in that force of contact with our atmosphere will give off shit like microwaves and all kind of crazy radiations when it hits.
But I think it's comets we have to worry about, right? Because that's from what I understand. From
From this documentary.
Asteroids. From Night of the Comet, from what I understand from the science behind Night of the Comet. Now, asteroids apparently were able to deflect. We have like a plan, a solid defense against asteroids, like any asteroid that might hit us.
Hopefully.
as long as we can identify it, but that's anyway. But from what I understand, like as long as we kind of know what's coming, like, and it's not too late, that we notice it, but that apparently is the risk of that is very low. We have plans to deflect it. Like we have all sorts of things we can do. But if it's a comet, we're fucked.
I would say, although I'm not a astrophysicist.
I'm pretty sure this came from Neil deGrasse Tyson. So
yeah, although I'm not an astrophysicist, I only play one on TV.
I don't want to quote him on that. I may have gotten that wrong.
I would think that the problem with a comet versus an asteroid is something that has been kind of just loosely pulled our way through the effects of gravity. Something with a gravitational pull has pulled that asteroid either towards us or has flung it to us from somewhere else. A comet is in an orbit. Something that's, and I mean, think about this. So like Halley's Comet, right? Halley's Comet comes by about every 84 years. That means...
Is it 84 years?
84.
Why did I think I have like 78 or so? I thought it was every 75 years or something like that.
So the amount of time, I mean, imagine, because that's going like Halley's Comet, I think, travels like around the galactic center, I think. Like it travels some crazy fucking orbit. I mean, it's 84 years, before it comes back around.
Yeah.
So, but think about that. Something that's traveling that far is making it back here every 84 years. So that thing is hauling ass. Because it's only here for like what, 3 days, I think. I think it's only visible here for 3 days. So I mean that comet is moving. It is motivated. And so if your planet is coming into a congruent path with a comet, like, yeah, your planet's fucked. because that thing is moving so fast that there is very little that's going to stop it.
Yeah, we don't. I don't think we have any real defense against a comet.
Yeah, or even,
I don't think there's I don't think we've been able to develop any sort of defense plan.
I think the wish would be to just push it off trajectory, but like think about it. It's been on that orbit for.
But that's what they do
long?
with asteroids. They do that with asteroids, but like for whatever reason, and maybe have to to do with what you said, or for some other reason. But we have a defense against asteroids. We don't have a defense against comets.
Yeah. So luckily we don't see a lot of comets. But yeah, I mean that's the whole case for that that Oumuamua being like an alien thing. That traveler that came in, and it was like a not cigar shaped, but it was like oblong. And the science, about half of the scientists kind of freaked out because it came into our solar system and then didn't go on a trajectory that like the gravity of the sun would have caught it and slungshot it. It passed the sun, and after it got past the sun, that's when all of a sudden it accelerated. But in a straight line. It didn't like curve around the sun and slingshot. It accelerated in a straight line, and that's why like there were scientists like the one guy at Harvard and some other people are like, well, that seems like some kind of weird propulsion to me, because it shouldn't have done that. But weird. Yep. This weekend, weird.
Oh man, that just froze up your camera, man. Your kisser was like right up to the camera. So what do you? All right, hold on.
Go ahead.
I love the red glow because they're in the tail of the comet, right?
Right.
But I don't. Again, it's 1984, Night of the Comet. I don't know that any of the science in this movie is anywhere accurate, but I do like the look of it. The whole movie, like they do a lot of outside shots, and it's all this kind of big red glow to it. It's cool.
And one of the things that I know we wanted to talk about, because we discussed it just a little bit when we were doing our watch through together. Usually we do it separately, but we did this one together. And I don't know, I could not find any evidence of this, but I have to think that Tom Eberhardt was probably a fan of John Carpenter. That's the other news. John Carpenter getting his star on the
Walk of Fame. Yes.
That's the one I wanted to mention.
Yep. Kurt Russell and Keith David were there.
That's right. That
was cool.
So I have to imagine Tom Eberhardt, when you see the visuals.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Keith David.
Yeah,
not David Keith.
Not David Keith.
Nope, Keith David.
Keith David.
Thank you. Okay. So to confirm I'm correct there.
The long shots of the city, this does take place in LA, in greater LA, and these long shots of the empty streets and the stoplights and one empty car, at an intersection, and everything is glowing red, and then it has this great synth track, this very simple. That it's very reminiscent.
It feels like a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, it feels like a John Carpenter film, because it's got that very simple. It has a little bit of almost a throwback to The Thing. It has that very simple, like kind of like gunk gunk, gunk gunk, And when you're seeing, and she's the part I'm at right now, she's driving the motorcycle. She's realizing something has gone wrong. She was shacked up with the projectionist at the movie theater all night in the steel encased projection booth, which he does mention is for fire protection, so in case the film catches fire, it doesn't catch the whole building up.
So one thing with this guy that she's shacking up with in the projectionist, so he's trying to he's not selling the prints, he's renting them out. Right? Is that what he's doing? He's kind of renting them out, and he needs to get them back. But he's renting them out, and he's got this copy of a movie, and he's trying to kind of rented over the phone, and the guy's offering him $100, and he's like yelling at him. He's like, $100 isn't going to do it this time. You know what I mean? He's like, what am I supposed to do with a lousy $100 or whatever? And then he goes, 110. 110 is better. Like 10 more bucks. That's all it took.
It was 84, man. Like a buck went a lot further.
That's right. So $10 is a big increase.
That's right.
Yeah, 110.
But yeah, you're right. The red glow of the city, all that stuff mixed with the soundtrack and everything. The movie. I'm definitely one of the people that, like, you see them talk about like Night of the Comet and things like In Search of Darkness, like the documentary series, things like that. But you don't see like a lot of like Night of the Comet love. You don't see a lot of people showing up to the horror conventions dressed as Sam in the Pep Squad outfit. Like here and there, maybe, but not like the movie doesn't seem to get the same love as some of the other 80s movies, you know.
Does it get more love than Shopping Mall?
I don't think,
I think so. I do.
No, you think? You think
Yeah,
Shopping Mall
I
is
think
less
people,
respected?
I think Night of the Comet's more known.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think Shopping Mall. I think Shopping Mall is certainly near and dear to us. I think a lot of horror fans know it, but I think Night of the Comet's probably known more. I think you asked earlier if it was iconic. If it was iconic,
yeah.
I mean, is anything from Shopping Mall iconic?
No, I guess really the only thing would be the
robots,
and maybe the girl's head exploding, because that
there's
head
so many other.
That
head explosion is good, but it's not the most famous head explosion. The head explosion from Scanners is the most head.
Mr. Chewing Gum.
Yep. Yeah.
If for some reason you hear what sounds like screams by some strange creatures, my puppies are playing downstairs and they they whine and yip at each other.
Yep.
So speaking of Sam and the Pep Squad, that was not originally thought of for Kelly Maroney. Heather Langenkamp was almost Sam.
Oh, but was she filming Nightmare on Elm Street at the time, or had she already done it?
That I'm not sure about.
Well, Nightmare on Elm Street came out in '84, and this came out in '84. So I wonder if did you read why she didn't do it?
I didn't read why, but I mean, you can make an assumption too that as an actor, you have the opportunity to play the little sister of what is ostensibly the main character in Night of the Comet, or you can be the lead in Nightmare on Elm Street. And you can be the lead in Nightmare on Elm Street directed by Wes Craven, who already has a few hits under his belt.
Yep.
Versus Tom Eberhardt, who really didn't have, didn't have the same name value as Wes Craven. So
yep, she may have already committed to Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
She may have already committed to it and started filming, and she's not available.
Now, one of the funny parts is we talked a little bit ago about the Uzis, the scene with the not Uzis.
Yeah.
But there is kind of a what's become a somewhat known scene in that it's usually like a favorite of fans of the film is when the gun jams, and that's what inspires then the line, "Daddy would have gotten us Uzis." Well, that kind of whole thing was like ad-libbed because they had so little money to film the movie that Tom Eberhardt told him, just react to things like in character. Like no matter what happens, just react to things in character because I don't have a lot of money to do multiple takes. we gotta get it.
We gotta kind of nail it. Yeah.
And move on to the next shot.
Yeah.
So out of that, you get some things in the movie where it looks like there might have been a little flub or something, but yet they make it look like
they just go with it.
It was supposed to happen.
Yep.
So they're now showing up to the radio station because they get back. So Sam and Reggie, their dad is in Nicaragua, but someone is watching them. Who's watching them?
Well, their stepmom.
Their stepmom.
Right. So I had a question about the stepmom. So who throws a really nice, right cross. So so the dad is in Nicaragua, and he's presumably he's away all the time. Like that's what it sounds like. So I get that the stepmom is like lonely.
Yeah,
I get it. But they're having this, so the Comet's coming, and there's like people having Comet parties and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
out in the street.
Very Independence Day before Independence Day.
Right, which is totally realistic too, because if a comet's heading straight for us and we know it, I'm looking for the nearest bomb shelter. Like I'm, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to find. So I'm not going to be out in the streets like partying, and I guess they're under the assumption that it's safe, right? Like
because the Earth is passing. It's like the comet's going, and then the Earth is passing through the tail.
Right.
So that there's no danger of an impact, but they think that, you're going to get this great light show.
Right.
It's going to be like the Aurora Borealis on crack. And, so they're all out they're having block parties.
So they're having a block party, and they're having a block party outside of Kelly Maroney's house. Right. And the stepmom is just flirting openly with this dude, not even flirting. Like, he's got his arms wrapped around her, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
she's like put her head on his like chest and stuff like that. Like they're together. Like she's acting like they're together, and it's the neighbor.
Well, yeah, and all the neighbors are there.
All the neighbors are there. They're out in the open.
They all know she's fucking around on her husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they all know it.
Okay. All right. I just thought that was a little I don't know if they put that in the movie on purpose or they just,
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that it's one of those things where maybe it wasn't well thought out. Who knows? But I mean, Kelly Maroney's character Sam, is like, I might have to tell Dad, when that's what starts the slap fight that turns into a fist fight. Because she threatens.
Well, it wasn't really a fist fight if the other person doesn't hit back. Like there's no fight.
There were two
hits. Yeah.
But yeah, so and it was a funny thing about that was that Sharon, what's her last name? Sharon Farrell, who plays Doris.
Yeah.
Now she was acting since like 1959. She was in all kinds of stuff. She was a dancer when she started. She was kind of like she was holding back. She was like she knows how like movie slaps are supposed to go, And unfortunately, we're running into now number one, if you have to do a slap, you don't want to do multiple takes. Like even in theater, when we used to do theater where, you try to do little things to mask how hard you're actually hitting, you want to make a lot of noise, but not a lot of actual impact and things like that. But even then, when there's a slap, you maybe only rehearse the slap like at dress rehearsal a couple of times, because you don't want to just repeatedly be hitting somebody, and then after that you get it down and then you do it just on the night. So she's holding back a little bit. She's doing like movie slaps, like figuring, well, the Foley guy, the week later is going to like, slap a steak and put in the sound,
Right.
But it's not looking good.
Is that how they make the sound? They slap a steak?
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not going well. The slaps don't look real or whatever. Tom Eberhardt's like, he's watching dollar signs as the film goes through the camera.
Oh God, yeah.
And so Kelly Maroney tells her, like, on this next one, you gotta just nail me. Just nail me. And so when you watch, like, she hits Kelly Maroney, and Kelly Maroney almost comes out of character and then has to like pull it back together. And then she slaps Sharon Farrell, and if part of the deal is somebody really slaps you, you get to really slap them back, So she hauls
Totally
off
right.
on, hauls off on Sharon Farrell. And so then, Doris just, but now that's a fake hit, that's
I would hope
movie.
so.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
a
hope
movie
she
screen
really
hit.
didn't.
But the slaps were
Kelly
full
Maroney.
on. The slaps were full on.
Nice.
But so, Reggie gets back from the movie theater the next day. We find out that Sam is still alive because Sam, after the fight, made like she was going to run away. Left a note, the whole bit, and she didn't make it very far because she's like, it's tired, it's late, it's dark.
Yeah.
There's all these people out for this Comet crap. She's hurt. She's got like a, little bit of a, busted lip or swollen lip from the whole thing. So she finds like a neighbor's shed, like, it's the
Right.
old sheds. It's not the sheds like we have now where it's all that plastic carbon fiber shit.
It's the metal sheds. It's the old
it's
metal
one of
sheds.
the old school steel sheds,
Yep.
And so she goes in and closes the door and camps out in the shed for the night till it's time.
Right.
She's figuring, well, by tomorrow morning, Doris is going to go to work. I'll go back to the house after I know she's gone. But now, so Brad, like, I don't, it's not that Sam is not intelligent. Sam is very intelligent.
Yeah.
But it's part of the kind of a bit of the Valley Girl thing. She's a little bit oblivious.
She's also younger.
She's younger. She's in high school, like early high school.
She's
junior
like
high, maybe even.
supposed to be like 16, I think.
I think she's supposed to be 16. Reggie's 18.
And Reggie's 18. Yeah.
But she goes all the way home, seeing all the clothing laying out in the streets.
Yep.
And is acting like she's like I can't get a hold of anybody on the phone for the pep squad practice.
Right.
And so they have that scene where Reggie has to like literally hold up the clothes where the Doris's like dress where the red dust is pouring out.
Well,
she's like, this is Doris.
And she pours out Chuck's shoe.
Yeah, this is Chuck.
And it's the calcium dust that apparently. So we have to talk about the fact that this effect, there's a deterioration of, right? So if you were right out in the street, you're calcium dust.
Right. It's just ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Right. But if you were like semi-protected, you are a zombie-ish kind of person. What happens is the deterioration happens slower. So it's right.
It's basically like you're getting slowly whatever the effect of the comet radiation was, it is dehydrating you on a cellular level. And so no amount of water or anything is going to stop the progress. And no Gatorade,
IV.
no liquid IV.
No, not going to do it.
I don't have my liquid IV
juice. Pickle juice isn't going to do it. There you go.
I'm feeling better. I think it's just working. This is working.
Good?
I'm feeling better.
Good.
So some people are turned almost zombie-like right away because it really is, like you said, the level of exposure.
Right.
And when we eventually get to the bunker brigade, they are in a bunker. So somehow this group of scientists knew this was coming. We don't have any idea whether we're not really told. And I think it's kind of purposeful. Like, we don't know if they're government.
Well, the sign says restricted area. So I guess, I mean, they could be private, I guess, and still have
they have guards.
Area.
They have armed guards.
But yeah, it seems like it's some kind of
it feels governmental.
Government, yeah.
But somehow these scientists knew this was coming. They identified the radiation. And I will say there's a scene that in the rewatches that I've done bothers me because there's a reporter on the TV at Reggie and Sam's house the night of the comet who is out like in the downtown LA area with a big crowd. They're partying and he's doing the live report from the street. And that dude looks super fucking nervous. He's all shifty. He's like looking around, like being all like weird and shit. And it almost makes me wonder if some people were told, or maybe he's, I don't know if he's supposed to be a weatherman or something, but it looks to me like he knows something bad is coming, but it's like they haven't told anybody. Like they've kept it from everybody that the bad thing is happening. The reporter looks super shifty. I don't know why else he would be acting that way.
Well, because they were all pushing around him. They were all like, on top of him and pushing him in and, crowding around him because they wanted to be on camera and stuff like that. Like he's like, get away from me.
Brett out, you crowd me.
Freaks. Get the hell away from me.
But
Personal
I don't know.
Space.
He always came off weird. But so the scientists somehow knew this was going to happen. And they built like a whole bunker complex with all kinds of labs and offices and,
Right. So they built this big, intricate, complicated, sophisticated bunker.
Yeah. All steel lined.
All steel lined. Right? Can withstand a big impact, all that stuff. But what did they do, Kyle?
According to Dr. White, they left the vents open.
They left the vents open.
And
the fans on. And
they left the window open.
So, yeah, they left the
fresh air, you guys.
I know. So they're also deteriorating because they were exposed.
Right.
So, and they know it. And so they have to they think they can develop this serum. She doesn't. Dr. White doesn't.
Dr. White doesn't. Dr. Carter, who is the actor, Jeffrey Lewis, who was in things like Salem's Lot, Devil's Rejects, well-known character actor. Dr. Carter wants to develop this serum. He and the other scientists think that they can do it and that they have enough time. They know that they're deteriorating.
Right.
Because their calcium levels keep going up, but they think that their level of decay has given them enough time because they were only exposed to whatever the mystery radiation was. They were only exposed to the amount coming through the vents.
Right.
But that's the thing, is apparently even a small amount of this radiation has the same effect on you.
It just takes longer for it to happen.
It takes longer for it to happen. So even though they were only really breathing in the irradiated air, they're still going to eventually turn into zombies. And then eventually every zombie will turn into dust. And so they're like basically going around collecting up survivors because they think that there's something special about the survivors.
Right.
But what do we know?
There isn't.
Because all that happened was they were inside, completely enclosed.
They were just inside of steel or inside of deep inside a heavy concrete and steel.
Hector survives literally just because he has a sleeper cab.
Yeah.
Where you close, it's got a closure, when you get in the back and you close the doors on it or whatever.
Right.
Maybe it's even a curtain, right? But he had the windows up and he was asleep in the back of the cab he was shacked up with some woman.
Right.
And just being inside, that's of course, this is 84. Cars are still made of steel, cars and trucks. It's not fiberglass and composites and junk. So he's just inside the cab of his truck. He fucking survived. That's all it took, is being inside something with the windows rolled up.
Yeah.
and you live.
Cranked up.
Yeah, yeah, cranked. Yeah, there's no auto. There's no
There was no
fucking
auto. It was cranked.
toggles.
Yeah.
He had to crank it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it. But these scientists have, like, for all of their research and all of wherever the money came from that went into this bunker and all this shit, they don't get the basic premise that there is zero special about Reggie and Sam or
Right.
Hector or any of them. They were just people who basically stayed inside and didn't.
They were
open a
just
win-
lucky. They were just
Yeah.
happened to be where they were. That's all.
They stayed inside, didn't open a window,
Right.
and they survived it.
Yeah.
So really, all the serum stuff, the serum would have never worked. They would have just killed all these people
Yeah.
for no reason,
For no reason.
and they would have still dried
and they
out.
would have still dried out and died and become calcium dust.
Now, Dr. White, she gets it. She knows that this is all meaningless. There's no point to any of this. And that's
Right.
why she ends up, she shoots herself up with something that they
Yep.
were going to use to kill Sam.
Yep.
And she does herself in and lets Sam go, But I think it's very interesting. Like, just the whole vibe of the film is super 80s. Like, if you're an 80s nostalgia person, like, this is like definitely the movie you want to watch. Because even just the instincts of the cast, like Tom Eberhardt worked in a lot of, like, these kind of basic 1980s teenage instincts. Like, there's nobody around. All these people are dead, turned into dust, but there's still a voice on the radio. So where do we go? We're going to go to the radio station.
Yep.
That's where help's got to be, because this guy's on the radio.
Right.
Unfortunately, they don't understand that by that point in time, radio stations were already using the prepackaged, like when they, when none of the DJs wanted to work on a weekend,
Right.
you have the pre-recorded show.
Right. Absolutely. So, Kyle, got to ask
Yes,
a question.
Brad. Fire.
Is Night of the Comet a Christmas movie?
Night of the Comet. I'm gonna say no.
Why? It takes place at Christmas. There's
It
Christmas
takes-
decorations everywhere. There's Christmas music in
There's
the movie.
one Christmas song.
One is still, still music.
There's one Christmas song.
Yeah.
There are some Christmas decorations, but you only see them, like, pretty much in the very beginning.
Huh? No, not really. Even when Hector goes to see his mom, that's decorated for Christmas.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's not like Die Hard. Die Hard has so many references to Christmas.
Yep. I didn't say Die Hard wasn't a Christmas movie. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I'm just asking if this is also a Christmas movie.
Now, I would say this is a sci-fi horror that happens at Christmas. That's my hot take.
I'm still going to watch this at Christmas.
You're gonna put this on a loop instead of Christmas Story.
That's right.
You're gonna watch Night of the Comet all day. Let's see. Where am I at in my notes here?
I don't know.
So they get to the radio station and they've met Robert Beltran's character Hector.
Yeah.
And Robert Beltran, they hired him on, and from the beginning it was Hector Gomez. This takes place in LA, so it's like, if chances are, if you're going to run into somebody, they're probably going to be of Mexican American, Mesoamerican descent. So they had Hector Gomez written into the script, and they wanted to get an actor that was Latino. And so Robert Beltran was one of the guys who auditioned. They offered him the part, and he said, okay, but look, I don't want to play a cholo. He's like, I can't play like one of the guys from the neighborhood. He didn't want to be like a caricature like Cheech Marin, in Cheech and Chong. He didn't want to play that, olale and all that kind of stuff. He was like, I want to just be like, we come from everywhere, so I want to be from like Texas or something. So that's why all through the movie, he's wearing cowboy boots and the shirts with the leather vests, and think he looks like a cowboy through the entire movie, because he very specifically was like, I don't want to be a stereotyped Los Angeles caricature. I want to be a real person. And so they agreed. That Tom Eberhardt was like, absolutely, we'll do it however you want to, like that. I'm not stuck on that,
I mean, the fact that he was Latino wasn't really important to the plot of the movie.
No, and that's one of the things, is that he Robert Beltran, like, specifically was kind of fighting for that, because at the time, I mean, that's how they were making movies. Is let's, if we're going to have a minority character in the film, then it's going to be some kind of caricature. And I mean, I could go through like multiple examples where they do that, but in this film, he was like, but I'm not interested in the part if it's going to be that. Like, I'll do it if you let me be like, I want to develop a character and have my input and everything. But if you're looking for just some, guy off the street corner, this character that you want everybody to think that's what Latinos in LA are all like. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. So props to Robert Beltran.
Yeah, he's a good character.
And apparently,
I like Hector.
Apparently, there's somebody else we know in the movie that I forgot to mention, but he's only seen very briefly, apparently, and I still can't find out where he is. But apparently, a fella, his first name is James, and I believe that ladies love him because he's cool. I don't know. Ladies love cool James.
What? No.
Apparently, LL Cool J is very briefly in the background in one of the shots in the begining of the movie. Is
he in the crowd? Is he in the crowd?
He's in one of the crowds.
Oh,
yeah.
he's in the crowd.
But yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Now I got to look for him.
So, Brad, you've asked me a few questions. Let me ask you one. What do you think about the opening of the movie? Because there's a narration.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you think?
You're not going to ask me about the narration, are you?
What do you think about the narration? Just the fact that that's how he opens the film.
I think it's very 80s.
Well, it almost feels to me like
I think it's very 80s sci-fi or 70s sci-fi. I feel like that's, the narration about the comet. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We just did our Atomic Monster episode.
Yes.
And I think that to me, it feels 50s. It feels like a throwback to a 50s sci-fi movie, which this is right in the end of the 50s nostalgia wave. This movie shows up. I have a note here somewhere. Yes. So the year this came out was the last season of Happy Days. Happy Days had just gotten canceled in 84 after 11 seasons.
Yeah. Yep. Loved Happy Days.
And so it feels to me like this is the last little kind of remnant of that 50s nostalgia, stuff. Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days. So it feels like Tom Eberhardt is doing a bit of a homage to those kind of movies, like, in the year 1984,
Yeah.
But I just wanted to know your take on that. Like, do you like the way the movie opens?
I love it. No, it's classic. It's great. It's great. This whole movie is, yeah, I can see that the connection to like a 50s style science fiction movie for sure.
The one thing that nobody seems to acknowledge, there's a lot of shots in the beginning of the movie of like those long, lonely street shots that we talked about, and there's like clouds of dust blowing by.
Yeah, that's people.
You see where I'm going?
Well, it's clouds of people.
People.
It's people. The dust is people.
The dust is. Don't breathe it. The dust is people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never really acknowledge it in the movie. It's like it took me this many times watching it to watch it and be like,
it's people.
It's a lot of dust.
Yeah.
Where's all that dust coming from?
Sure.
Oh my God. It's in my mouth. It's in my mouth.
Yep.
Imagine going home, blowing blowing your.
Oh, that's Mr. Johnson from down the street.
Somehow it's his glass eye was in there. You don't know.
That's shit.
Oh man, but I love like the there's these little touches. They filmed a lot of the shots of just empty street. Like right now, there's the great shot. I actually really love this shot of it's Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney sitting together on the hood of a cop car.
Yeah, on the police car, yeah.
And they're having this deep, it's like they finally get a moment to have like the deep sister talk.
Right.
And kind of hash some stuff out, and there's he starts it with a great wide shot because it's just them on the car and then the city looming behind them with the red sky.
Right.
And they're the only thing in the shot. And all those shots of like the empty streets and all that, they had to go out like early, like ass crack of dawn, just as you're getting just enough sun to shoot, but before the morning rush hour starts. They were like literally like running everything into the street between stoplights. Cars are like waiting to go down here,
God.
getting filming a shot and then picking it up and rushing off. Let that couple of cars go by till they're, and then go back on, get the next shot real quick.
Yeah.
They're doing it all before. And then, so basically like probably 7:30 hits. And then it's like they had to they couldn't film anymore out in the street because you got too many cars coming. But I like the fact that the whole shots like that, stopping at stoplights, and she's at the stoplight and she realizes why am I stopped?
Well, yeah. So I wanted to talk about that too, because we've talked about it before with like the zombie apocalypse. How you would survive, but if you're in the city, the biggest thing you have to worry about is like continuous running water and fresh water source and all that stuff. But other than that, and somehow trying to
eventually the power company
is going to go out down. Right. Yeah. It'll shut down.
You might get I think in the best case scenario, maybe you get like a month, like if it's like some like hydroelectric plant or something, but eventually some piece of equipment is going to break down.
Yeah.
And with nobody there to fix it,
right,
you're done. You're not getting any more power.
Right. So I don't know. I guess the first thing you would do, like we said before in previous episodes, is you would have to load up on antibiotics because now it's going to you have, like you said, a month. Maybe the first day you have a little fun. Yeah, you break into this, because they're going through their 80s shopping montage.
Yeah, to the song "Girls Just Want to Have Fun."
Right. Not sung by Cyndi Lauper.
No, they actually had to. They got a gal by. I think I wrote her name down. Let's see where my note is. Maybe I didn't write her name down. But they did get a woman to sing the song that was I think she was an actress and a voiceover actor and a singer, and she actually had been a backup singer. My understanding, at least from the little bit that I found about this woman online, was she was a backup singer for Cyndi Lauper at one point. But yeah, Cyndi Lauper was approached for using the song, her version of the song.
Yep.
And she said she didn't want it to turn into like a movie song, which is kind of weird to me.
Well, then the very next year she did the song for the Goonies.
Yeah. The very next year she did the Goonies song.
Yeah.
but she was very protective of the song for some reason. So even in like Valley Girl, it's not her singing it. And even they made a movie called Girls Just Want to Have Fun at one point, and that's not her singing it. So apparently, whoever owned the publishing rights to the song, it was not Cyndi Lauper. So apparently, they licensed the music itself.
Yeah.
But that was like the deal was you had to get somebody to record it because Cyndi Lauper, she had the rights to her vocal and she wouldn't let anybody use it. She took a stand. But yeah, so they have.
She took a stand for. I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been cool if it was her in like one.
It was so it was just that particular song because, like we said, she did the song. It was good enough, right?
Yeah, good enough. Yep.
For the Goonies soundtrack, like literally a year later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I don't know. Fuck if I know.
But yeah, so they go on their shopping spree. Instead of going to the local pharmacy and stocking up on antibiotics and Band-Aids to feel better about everything, they go on a shopping spree, and that's where they encounter the Stock Boys. And I'll tell you something. There's something about, and again, I'm biased because I love Catherine Mary Stewart.
Yeah.
But there's something about her in the black evening outfit with kind of the little hat on, firing a submachine gun at a bunch of dudes. That's pretty cool.
Did we mention that she was also in Weekend at Bernie's?
That's right. She was the love interest in Weekend at Bernie's.
Jonathan Silverman's love interest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Great movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Love Weekend at Bernie's. Weekend at Bernie's too. It gets a little like silly, right?
It gets silly because he like ends up. There's a little bit of maybe a little racisty because he gets under like a voodoo curse where anytime he hears the music playing, he starts bouncing and walking.
It's been a while. I haven't watched Weekend at Bernie's 2 in quite a while. So
yeah, it's like the classic, like they're Caribbean island or whatever, so there has to be some voodoo curse.
Oh God, Weekend at Bernie's. Terry Kaiser of Friday the 13th Part 7 fame.
That's right. That's right.
Just want to point that out.
Hey, all of the best actors have at least one horror credit in their resume,
That's right.
Actors can learn a lot on the sets of horror movies. But yeah,
we're dealing with the new wave bad guys again. Like, I know you said it's the Stock Boys and they're wearing like, would you say they were wearing smocks? Still look straight out of MTV from 1984.
You don't like the smocks?
I like the smocks fine.
I like them all right.
I like them just fine.
Now, the leader of the Stock Boys, Willie is a pretty sufficient villain. I mean, yeah, yay, nay. Like he's creepy as fuck. He's got that game show host delivery. And
he reminds me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Christopher Lloyd was the bad guy? Yeah, the judge. Because he's got the glass. He's got the hat.
True.
The fedora or whatever. So he looks a little like 30s gangster. It's all that again. It's very new wave. But I like his face because he's deteriorating. Right. And so when he takes off his sunglasses, that's a cool makeup job on his face.
Yeah. The eyes are all sunken in. He's like, he's almost a zombie, but he still has his mental faculties yet. Right. He hasn't gone like she encounters the guy in the alleyway in the beginning who has just completely lost his humanity. And he was eating the boyfriend. He like got the boyfriend first, the projectionist, and was eating him Like that's the other thing that we haven't talked about is that this shit turns you into a cannibal briefly before you turn to dust. And I wonder if that's something about it. I wonder if you're craving something. I think the scientists think it's you're craving like the blood. But
why would you be craving the blood?
Because of the liquid to get the like any kind of water, any kind of I gotta get the hydration. But yeah, he's actually further along, it looks like, than the others. But they all are at some stage close of that because they all have the sunglasses on, even though they're indoors, because that's the other thing. It makes you light sensitive. But Willie is played by a fellow by the name of Ivan E. Roth. And we're going to see him again because he's going to be in the third film in our Night of series, Night of the Creeps. But Ivan Roth, he gives me Joker vibes. Like in this scene, when you see him with the hat on and the sunglasses,
yeah,
and he gets the crazy toothy smile, like he looks like the Joker.
I think at that deterioration, yeah.
I think they missed out. I think at some point in the early days here, they probably had a good Joker on their hands, and they missed the boat.
Well, who would have played Batman in 1984?
Oh, in 1984, who would have played Batman? That's a good question. That is a good question.
Like,
Dabney Coleman?
Yeah. Gene Hackman.
Poor Gene Hackman.
No. Why? Because he's dead? Come on. Yeah. I didn't mean it to come out like that. I didn't mean it to come out like that. No,
because he's dead, Kyle.
Hey, he lived to be...
he's dead.
Stop. He lived to be like... Well, how old was he? 94? 95?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, he was up there. What about Michael Douglas? You don't think Michael Douglas as Batman would have been good?
All right, so this was Black Rain Michael Douglas.
I hate to tell you, Brad, Michael Douglas already was Batman because that's Michael Keaton's real name.
Shut up. Idiot. Such an idiot. But he was Michael Keaton in 1984. Because he had already done, because this is Mr. Mom would have been 1983, something like that. 82.
Probably.
So he was Michael Keaton at that point. But you're talking about like Michael Douglas.
Right, like Romancing the Stone,
Michael
Douglas.
No.
No, you don't think so?
No. Well, anyway, Night of the Comet.
One thing I feel like we need to talk about is like, so it's 1984, right? Let's get in the time machine and go back to 1984. And this is where like the sounds of the 80s would play.
Are you going to put something in?
No. I don't have that money. I can't license something real.
There's no budget for the show.
So I just kind of went through and I looked at some of the movies that had come out. This movie came out in November because, being that it did have a Christmas theme.
Mm-hmm.
It came out in November of 84. So I wanted to see what kind of movies came out prior to Night of the Comet. And you had movies like Footloose. You had Breakin'. 16 Candles came out that year. You had Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where we got introduced to Short Round. Ke Huy Quan, awesome. I still want to.
Why do people knock Temple of Doom? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I
love Temple of Doom.
I'm willing to take it if we lose listeners. I like it better than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You do, yeah.
I do.
I kind of do too. No, I'm with you. I'm totally.
We're horror movie guys.
Yeah.
And Temple of Doom is
It's
more
scarier.
skewed horror
Yeah.
than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. Yep.
So for us, it plays.
Yeah. Come on, when he rips that dude's heart out of his chest.
Oh, yeah.
Kalima.
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 Kalima. You've betrayed Shiva. You got The Last Starfighter. Last Starfighter came out the same year as Night of the Comet. Catherine Mary Stewart was having an awesome year. Another little fun movie, Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn came out right before this movie
man.
came out.
That was...
And so when I look at this movie, and I look at some of these other movies, like Red Dawn and things, I have a tendency to rant a little bit. I kind of upset my wife Jenny because sometimes we watch movies that are like skewed, not skewed toward like kids. Like obviously, when our boys were growing up, we watched a lot of the kids stuff. But even sometimes you'll watch a movie that's skewed towards young people. I feel like, and maybe this is why one of the reasons why the Harry Potter movies became so popular and everything, but I feel, and I don't know if you agree with me, in the 80s, there was a definite feeling to me that there were movies being made of kids and young, like teens, doing amazing things.
Well, we talked about that in the Monster Squad episode.
Right, the Monster Squad.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Yeah. So the ragtag kids that could take on, bad guys or, saving the world or whatever. Yeah, the Fratellis, you're right. Absolutely. Every kid in the 80s wanted to be a Goonie. Yeah.
And so it's like this, I feel like this is in the same vein as a lot of those. And I don't know if I'm the first to ever call them this. I think these are the Kids Are All Right movies.
Mm.
And I think that it's very particular. And I mean, you can get into all the social politics of like American exceptionalism and all that kind of stuff. But it was the Reagan era. For all the bad there was a lot of hope,
But who are the kids in this movie?
Well, they're supposed to be 18. They're obviously older,
so
but they're supposed
she's
to be
an adult,
18 and
so
16.
There's one kid, and the kid's 16 years old.
Well, 18, you're in high school still.
Yeah, but I mean the Goonies and all that stuff, and Sandlot, and those kids were like 12.
I think the argument could still be made that this is the Kids Are All Right movie. This is about two young women, two teenage girls who are facing this huge, overwhelming challenge.
Yeah.
They're having to survive the post-apocalypse and coming through with flying colors. Facing down all the dangers that but from crazed stock boys down to corrupt, strangely pseudo government scientists.
They're evil scientists.
They are.
They're
they are
straight up evil scientists.
Because you look at the movies that came out then the next year, because 1985, I will say that I think historically this movie also does suffer from the fact that it came out in 1984, because 1985 was a fucking banger. Because 1985, you got Back to the Future, The Breakfast Club, The Goonies, Real Genius with Val Kilmer, Teen Wolf, St. Elmo's Fire, all the great teen movies of the 80s came out in, given we talked about how there was, you did have Footloose in 84 and things like that, but all of the biggest teen movies of the 80s happened in 1985.
Yeah.
Because 16 Candles came out in 84, but if you were to ask people okay, Breakfast Club or 16 Candles, Breakfast Club was the bigger fucking movie. Right? That's where the real Brat Pack stuff got started. That and St. Elmo's Fire were the two. You don't think so?
But 16 Candles was a big movie.
I don't know, man.
Especially with the ladies. That's a staple movie.
But
Breakfast
I
Club
think
Breakfast Club was popular. It was huge, for sure. But
yeah, and I
16
think
Candles was, you know,
was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, was that 86 then?
86. Yeah,
86.
Yeah, yep.
But yeah, 1985 was gigantic for teen films, and I just have a feeling that Night of the Comet kind of got lost. You know, it comes out right at the end of 84.
Well, I mean, come on, you're talking about some of the biggest blockbuster teen movies of all time. Listen, I love Night of the Comet, but you can't put Night of the Comet against Goonies. Like, what are you, fucking crazy? Bro, no, sir. Or Ferris Bueller's, or any of those fucking movies. You gotta be crazy. For me, definitely 16 Candles. I'd watch Night of the Comet over 16 Candles any day.
Yeah.
But
me too.
But I don't know that. No, if I got to watch Goonies from the beginning, Goonies is one of those movies that's like, no matter, you'll watch it no matter, like if you walk into a room and it's on, or if it's live TV and you catch it, you'll watch it at any point in the movie, even the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
But you love it. It's the best feeling when you catch it right in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean,
that's true.
Kids today don't have that feeling because it's on streaming or whatever. And, but like when we were kids, a lot of times you had to find it sometimes. You had to find it on HBO. You had to catch it like right in the beginning.
That's a good question, Brad. Do you think that, and this is a big question that, I know this would probably require a lot more time to talk about to give a super erudite answer. But do you think that streaming has hurt the impact that film has on teens and tweens? And
I think that with streaming, I think movies get lost. I think that even big movies with big stars, there's stuff that comes out on streaming I've never heard of. And they're big stars and they have their followings, but it's not the same. It's not the same as when it came out in the theater and you had to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, I would.
I don't think it has as big of an impact.
Yeah, because there isn't any more. I mean, you have some streaming platforms attempt to resurrect the feeling, like Jenny and I have been watching the show on Max, The Pit, the new hospital ER show with Noah Wyle, and that it comes out. The new episode drops at like 9-10 p.m. every Thursday. And so they're trying to get back that kind of, the term would be appointment viewing. They're trying to claw that back to get people to, like, so you're waiting the whole week to see the next episode.
Well, there was something to that, and so this, you say the streaming, hurting movies. I don't know if it's hurting television or not, because you're seeing big stars get into these shows on streaming networks, but shows get lost. Like you told me, I didn't know that show existed. So it's a little bit different than when you had, only a few channels and only certain shows. There's only so much room for so many shows, but now there's a show for everything.
Well, and not to totally derail the conversation off.
Yeah, because we're way off.
A discussion about entertainment, but also, if you look at the way streaming platforms have, it's basically you're not going like when it was just HBO, right? When you just had HBO, And even when it went to streaming and it was just HBO, you kind of knew what you were going there for. You knew you were going there, okay, a new movie was just released on streaming, a movie that maybe had been out in the theater. It's now hit streaming so it's akin to the rental days. Oh, it just hit streaming. Okay, I'm going to go watch it. And you went to HBO and it was like your classic HBO. It was like all the movies that normally you would see on HBO at any given time, new release stuff, some old stuff, etc. But now it's Max. And HBO's in there somewhere in the gumbo.
Yeah,
But you're not sure where.
That was weird. I thought HBO was the kind of the
HBO should have been the selling point.
Was the bigger brand.
Yeah, right. But so now, because
why do I know?
Discovery owns it, the Discovery took over Warner Brothers, so now they own that. They own Max, HBO. So now you go in there, and now you see, you don't just see HBO, you don't just see home box office, network stuff, great movies. You go in there and you see every godforsaken thing that Discovery owns.
Yeah. Okay.
And you don't know where to look. Where do I go to see the good new show? Unless they offer it up to you, like in the top header, like you get lost. And so, like you were saying, there's good things that come out, but nobody knows they exist. Nobody's heard about them. Nobody's seen anything about them because they're just lost in the laundry list of all the crap that they've had on various cable channels that you won't watch in a million years.
Right.
And who wants to go digging through all that to find that one gem? You know what I mean? So I think overall, it probably has really hurt. And that's why it's nice to have things like Shudder, because it's a boutique channel.
Right.
You go there and you know what you're fucking going to get.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, definitely.
Yep. And that's that. I think that really, if anybody wants to do it and do it well, that's what they need more of. And to be honest, I don't think every studio needs to have their own channel. I don't know that you need an MGM, a Warner, a strictly. I don't think Disney needs its own channel. I think we ought to leave it to they should have left it. They could have made enough money if it had just been a Netflix and a Hulu.
Disney owns Hulu, so
I know, but that's the thing. You could have just kept selling your stuff to these couple core channels. Everybody was happy. Everybody, but then you all had to try to build your own bank out of it. And now it's like, now you don't know where anything is. Now like we discovered The Pit. The Pit's a good show. You had no idea what the hell I was talking about. There you go. I think we proved our point. Yeah. Speaking to that, there's actually kind of a little bit of a weird reason I brought that back around.
Okay.
Kind of coming into the tail end of the episode here. So there isn't like a huge amount. Like sometimes we talk about there's certain movies where there's like a you can tell there's a subtext, or you can tell. Now, Night of the Comet is not a movie that you need to read a lot into, but there are some kind of general themes at work.
Uh-huh. I was fearing that you were going to bring this up.
Well, because it is the 80s.
Okay.
It is the Reagan era.
So I'm going to ask you. You tell me.
Go for it.
You tell me what the subtext of Night of the Comet is, please.
I think that if there's any subtext at all, it's a little bit of a reflection. It's not so much that, I mean, he has lines written in that directly refer to it.
If you tell me it's about 80s greed,
It's about capitalism.
Oh, you fucker.
And it only comes up a couple times, because, and specifically talking about the Stock Boys, because Willie literally, when he has the girls tied up and he's sort of taunting them before he's like planning on killing them, he talks about working your way up through the system finally starting to get somewhere, and then this happens. And that's right before he has a great line where he says, "Let's play a game called Scary Noises." But then the scientists, when they're going then to actually, they've kind of discovered where the girls are in general, and the scientists are going there to retrieve them because they want to like study them, to try to make this serum, this cure.
Yep.
And on their way there, one of the scientists talks to, because they're racking their brains. They're like, well, they're not at the radio station. Where would they be? And the one scientist was like, well, if I was two American teenage girls, where would I go? And that's when they're like, oh, the mall. And so they're on their way there. And the one scientist declares it's a monument to consumerism. And so he touches on it just very lightly, very, very lightly. It's not a huge theme of the movie, but he touches on it very lightly, that that kind of feeling. Because if you think about when this was made, it's Cold War, it's Reagan era, Reaganomics, the Laffer curve. Vice President Bush called it something DOO economics, voodoo economics. Anyone? Did it work? Raised or lowered? Raised or lowered?
It raised.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Did it work? Anyone? It did not work, and the country sank further into a recession.
It's so topical. We're so topical. But so he just the movie. It's not necessarily a theme. It's not necessarily a subtext. I would kind of posit it more as like a vibe, that this is the kind of event that was on people's minds at the time of like, okay, in his story, in Tom Eberhardt's story, he makes it this comet and the radiation, and it does this thing and dries everybody out, turns them to dust. Well, what else had the threat of irradiating everything and turning it to dust? Nuclear weapons. And so it's sort of like Tom Eberhardt taking a very light look at what the possibilities could be, like almost working through. We talk about fear, when filmmakers play on common fears. So a common fear at the time is like, oh my God, what if, it turned from a Cold War to a hot war, everything went kaboom, and we're all that's left. What would I do? The fear of this unknown state of being. And so this, in a little bit of a way, is it's a movie that allows teens to work through that fear a little bit of like, well, if they're okay, maybe I could be okay if something like this happened and things went really bad. Maybe I could be okay. Maybe I would still be me, and I would just figure it out. So I think this is that kind of movie,
Yeah. Yep.
That's where I was going with that.
Okay, that's fine. Again, this is not a movie I think you have to look too deeply, into. But you do, so there you go.
Well, I do think it ends on kind of a classic. It's not even like a horror theme, a classic teen movie theme, which is overcoming the old dried out squares.
Right. That's right.
Because they've
all turned to, they're now all like in the zombie kind of state.
They're all starting to, you can tell they're starting to lose it. Even, like Carter's he's become the most aggressive. He's the first one that really starts to turn.
Right.
But you can tell that with the male scientists, the aggression levels are going up. And you can tell with the female scientists, they just seem confused. They're like making mistakes, and they kill a guy. They take too much. They're only supposed to take enough blood to like do more serum tests,
right?
And they drain the poor guy fucking dry. He's this like unknown, unnamed, faceless, victim. And so yeah, things are devolving for the scientists quite a bit now. So in a way, Reggie and Sam and Hector kind of do them a bit of a favor by, murdering all of them.
I don't know. Can you call it murder? Can you call that murder, though?
So what we have here,
yeah, well,
is a case of self-defense.
yeah, absolutely. They killed them. They didn't murder them.
So you're talking like manslaughter, like
No, total self-defense.
total self-defense.
Completely. It's absolute. They're deteriorating. They're becoming zombies.
I think gassing the two female scientists with the laughing gas probably is negligent homicide. Because they eventually probably you're only supposed to get like a short hit of that. Like when you're at the dentist's office, when the dentists that still use that stuff, you're only supposed to get like a short snort to like put you in an easy going state. They leave them hooked up.
I don't know. I don't think so.
They're not Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors. But yeah, so they, the end of the movie, they escape. They make their great escape.
Yep.
And they get one over on the old farts.
Yep.
Who were trying to bleed them dry.
The squares.
And so the movie ends with an interesting scene, right? So after all this occurs, then the next morning, because it is like early morning.
Yeah. And there's no more glow. There's no more glow in the sky.
Well, the rain comes, right? They get a storm.
Yeah.
And here the whole red tint to the sky was simply because of all the dust and all the red dust of all the people everywhere. And so the rain washes it all away. And at the facility, they discover two kids, right?
They do. Yep. And so they rescue them, and then they like, I don't know, are they adopting them?
It basically, the last scene is like they're trying to be like post-apocalypse Ozzie and Harriet.
Right, exactly.
They're trying to teach the kids how to be good. They get them all the nice duds from the mall. The kids are like,
so they're all dressed up. So I'm like, are they dressed up because they're like, just they can take those clothes because they just have access to whatever they want, or are they supposed to be like, yeah,
they're trying to be a family. They're trying to be
a family.
They call Samantha Auntie Sam.
Auntie Sam, right? And then she meets a guy who's this guy?
So
who's it turn out to be? I should say.
Well, yeah. There's in the very beginning.
Yeah.
When you first see Catherine Mary Stewart, she's playing a video game. They focus on her Argyle socks and her black pumps.
Yeah.
And then you see her, and she's got the boofed out 80s hair. She's looking totally fierce. Again, I'm biased, but she's playing a video game. She's playing, I don't know if it's Space Invaders, one of those. And she's got all the high scores.
Right.
Because apparently she plays the thing all the time. Except she notices on the board, like halfway down, like
at number
6 or something.
It's at number 6. Yep.
Instead of REG,
yep, for
just Reg,
yeah,
it's DMK.
Right.
And she's like, who the hell is DMK?
Right. And then fast forward all the way back to the end of the movie, and Kelly Maroney's in the street because they're on opposite ends of the street and they're shouting back at each other, and
because they're waiting to cross at the light.
Right. And
they're waiting
Reggie's
for the light
yelling at her to like wait. You got to wait for the crosswalk. And Kelly Maroney's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, there's nobody else here. There's nobody around. It's the end of the world or whatever. So what the fuck are you talking about? I'm just going to dance in the street. And she starts dancing in the street. And here comes this dude, like, peeling around the corner.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, he almost hits it. He almost hits her. And he's like, oh, you shouldn't be walking into the crosswalk like that, without the light.
Yeah, he's in a Beamer, a convertible Beamer.
Yeah, and then it turns out, and then they flirt with each other. She jumps in, takes off with them, and then the license plate reads DMK. And
yeah, because his name's like Daniel Michael Keener.
Yeah.
And here he's like a rich kid. It really is his car.
Yep.
He's got 15 more of them. Yep. Here he was like some rich LA dude who survived, and it just happens this was like his first time through that part of the city.
Yeah.
Where he discovers that there's other survivors.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we find out in the end who DMK is.
Right.
A nice little callback to put a little
callback. Yep, absolutely.
On the movie.
Yep.
But yeah, and they're so secure with how safe they are now that they're actually putting their guns in the trash can.
Right.
Throwing their guns away.
I would still I don't think I would throw the guns away.
Yeah, I would have kept the guns.
Keep the guns. You don't know because you're still only in Los Angeles. So right. If you're like, if you're going to go anywhere, you're going to try to find other people or something like that. You got to keep your guns on you.
And the interesting part is this is another scene that they had to film at like 7 a.m.
Sure.
On the empty street in LA, between lights, between cars passing by.
Yeah.
And they do have a great moment where he pulls up, he's wearing his sunglasses, she's wearing her sunglasses, and they have to take them off to prove to each other that they're not a zombie. But so Brad, Night of the Comet. What do we think about this movie and its place in horror fandom?
Well, I think it has its place in horror fandom. Like we said before, we talked about how that shot of the cheerleader against the red sky was kind of like iconic to horror fans. So I think it definitely has its place. I love the movie. I think it's a really fun movie to watch. It's not particularly scary. You know what I mean? It's not that kind of horror movie, but it's still a horror movie. I don't want to get into that debate because we don't have time. But it's a fun 80s movie. It's I don't have much more to say about it than that. It's just it's a rewatchable, it's a movie you would watch over and over again. You know what I mean? So it's likable cast. We talk about it all the time. So likable cast. You have the evil scientists are kind of the antagonists in the movie, and they're good, because it's a lot of good character actors there. So it's a well done movie. It's cinematically it looks really good.
I would say if people out there listening, definitely, if you're we're John Carpenter fans, I mean, there's very few, obviously, some of his later films weren't quite crafted as well, but for the most part, Escape from New York, Christine, all these, we're big fans. And so if you're into John Carpenter movies, Tom Eberhardt's Night of the Comet has that feel.
Definitely.
It has that feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has really good characters. If you're kind of like me and you're when people talk about strong female characters in films and stuff, and you're kind of like, well, I don't, all my growing up, I remember there being strong female characters, and these are two of them. And so if you want to see a real movie where it's the girls taking the forefront and surviving and doing all that stuff, this is a great movie. This is a great movie to get that from, because the characterization.
Are they the most kick-ass final girls in a horror movie?
I would say as far as
Sigourney Weaver.
They start kick-ass. Sigourney Weaver, I mean, obviously Sigourney Weaver is the second in command on a spaceship, right?
Yeah,
so she's obviously done something, to get to where she's at. But Reggie and Sam in Night of the Comet, they start kick-ass. And it's just they basically, the movie just puts them. It's an adventure film. It puts them in more and more dangerous situations, and you keep like seeing like, are they going to get out of it? Like, and how are they going to? And not only that, but it's two women who like don't give up on each other. Like, given this wouldn't pass that Bechdel test because they do have one whole scene where all they do is talk about how like the last guy on the face of the earth and you got to try and take him, even though you know I'm into him and all that kind of stuff. But let's be realistic. It's the type of thing that two teenage girls, two sisters, that's the kind of thing that they would end up discussing. Like, you know, when they're faced with the fact that there's nobody else on the face of the planet, and then they meet a guy, at some point, obviously this movie condenses that, so it's happening like within a day.
Yeah.
But at some point, they're going to talk about, okay, who gets to have a relationship? You know, you're not just talking about sex, you're talking about relationships. Who gets to have a relationship now? There's only one guy. Which one of us gets to do that? Which one of us gets to feel like loved, basically, you know?
I'm sure Hector's like, there's enough of me for everybody, you know?
But so
Hector's like, I will make that sacrifice. But be careful what you wish for.
I will sacrifice to save humanity. But you know, it's the thing. It's like they're dealing with that. It deals with that sisterly relationship really well. So I think that, you know, this is one of those movies, and I think that's also part of why it's been popular with horror fans for so long, is because even though it's not the scariest movie, it's not the bloodiest movie, it's not the goriest movie, but it's an adventure with characters who feel real.
Yeah.
They feel like people you might really know, and especially two girls from the valley. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's people in California that'd be like, oh yeah, that's exactly how two girls from the valley would handle the apocalypse.
Right.
You know. So, yeah, definitely, we highly recommend the film. We hope
Definitely. Absolutely.
It's on Tubi, so check it out.
Yep.
I guess that's it, Brad. So from me
and me,
thanks for listening and watching. And remember, the broadcast is coming from inside the house. And stay inside because there's a comet and it's got radiation and like it'll turn you to dust.